Q&R Code. This is Riley just jumping on to let you know that this is going to be a 2-part episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome.
I was just thinking that when you started our last podcast episode.
Really?
I haven't listened to that show in quite a long time.
Me neither, but maybe if we were more effective, we would have a thing we say every day, all the time, no matter what. Hey, Q&R Code, you already know. I'm your twin Quinn, and that girl's not my foe.
Giddy up.
Yeehaw!
Okay, is this an intro to the podcast, or are you gonna intro us?
I feel like I just did.
Okay, thank you. That's our new intro, you guys. So we've just been workshopping it a little bit. Welcome to the podcast.
I feel like I just stole... Hey, isn't that Fat Albert's thing?
Quinn...
Sorry.
I don't know.
Isn't his thing, hey?
I have no idea.
Is that even what I said? Sorry.
It's okay. Oh my gosh. We are coming back to record this podcast episode right after I took a lovely springtime walk outside, and let me tell you, that made me arrive with just all the best energy to have a conversation with you, Quinn, because note to self in life, always remember this, Riley, that just go outside a little bit. Go outside and go for a walk. It feels so rejuvenating. It should be every single podcast spending at least a short while outside beforehand to get my mind right. And I love nature and the outdoors so much, yet still I can find myself in times where I'm like, how have I not had an actual intentional outside time today? And Brayden and I had the best start to the past couple of days, because as soon as we woke up, we went outside and sat on our bench. It's also a couple of very warm spring days in Virginia where waking up at 7 a.m, you can walk outside in jammies that are like shorts and a shirt and be like, it feels perfect out here to read. And
nice.
That is a great feeling.
That's like a tropical vacation type feeling.
Yes.
But and yours is from such a cute brick little cottage vibe.
Yes, and I started reading a book that is like lectures on poetry and writing, so I'm getting dialed in, working on my craft of writing, which I haven't, I have all these writing books from school where when I was in my programs, imagine all these textbooks and like lecture books, they're not necessarily textbooks, like this one looks like this. But they give you ones on writing about art or writing short stories and poetry. I obviously haven't fully read all these books, and I kept them, so I'm going to try to keep on including my studious reads along with my hockey romance reads.
Nice. Yes, Riley, your backwards hat is giving love's heated rivalry.
I know, Quinn, noticed my little backward hat, which the lore is that I don't usually do a backward hat, but something about my little chopped haircut recently and being an artiste has just compelled me to dabble in the backward hat category.
I think that it works for you very much. I think there are a few things that you couldn't make work for you with good true blue effort, and I, too, am in my little studious readings. I don't know what it is about Tom Dorrance. For context, Tom Dorrance is a horseman who has been gone for, I think, 26 years or something is when he passed away, but He is a horseman who made a very lasting impact, especially in the more like buckaroo style horseman space. And I'm reading his book True Unity, and I tell you what, it's like a full book of riddles, except it's not supposed to be. And so
That's kind of how I feel about this poetry book too, Quinn. I'm like, oh yes.
yeah, I've been stoked when some of it actually is planting in my brain and working, because this is not a book where it's just like, oh yeah, read the page, flip. I'm like, read this sentence, go 3 sentences back, reread, keep reading, pause, close the book, think, and be like, do I get that? So I'm having stints of more like reading with it, but I am finding we had a super awesome lesson with this Colorado mule man who's, I don't know his age, so I hope I am not projecting this incorrectly, but I would venture to say in his 70s. He actually, it's cool because he had a relationship with a lot of these really prolific horse people, and we had such a great 4.5 hour long lesson with him over the weekend and learned so much. But he was like, people just get angry reading True Unity, like I've seen that book thrown across a room. Because he's like, people just don't understand it. And so he gave me some suggestions for if I did get caught up in that place, and thankfully I don't feel that way. I'm just like, I see Tom Doran's very forthright in the intro to the book, is like, people have been asking me for decades to try to teach them what I know, and I'm sure trying, but I am afraid that it is not my greatest skill set to be the teacher. It is my great skill set to work with the horse, and I am trying to put these feelings into words, but I very deeply have them as feelings, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to convey it in the way that I wish I could before my time is gone. So
I can totally see that, and I also feel like when things are written, people forget sometimes that writing is also a skill. So you might have the certain set of skills or an understanding that you know very well, but that can be really hard to convey. And certain philosophers, they might have super interesting philosophy that works in their head, but they're like writing it and trying to convey it to people can be so painful and confusing. And then there are ones where you're like, oh my gosh, they're also a gifted writer, so I actually feel like I can conceive of what they were trying to say. I feel that way about like Viktor Frankl with his thinking and writing on existentialism. It's because you can tie this to something so well and effectively that now I can understand the philosophy. And I bet I'm curious if working in person with this horseman would feel like you can just kind of feel their energy and watch what they're doing and understand it from teaching that way better than they were able to put it in a book.
yeah. But I'm still feeling, I think because I have so much context for what he's teaching because of the sphere I'm in, who really were like serious students of his work. If I was just coming into this book having never heard of these concepts, I'm sure I would feel a lot more lost, but because I've been surrounded for many, many months and actually years, this was my grandpa's book handed down to me, which is really special. But yeah, I feel like because of the context I'm able to get a lot more from it than if it was just. And I think that returning to books, I've eventually I want to be someone who does a second read of books to get a really. I want to do that with braiding sweetgrass.
My
Um,
gosh, I was just thinking about that because even though I rented it from the library, I then went out and purchased a copy. I'm like, I do need this near me.
yeah, I've purchased a copy for a friend, but I've not purchased a copy for myself, and that I should do.
I wonder who would want my books. I've done a very good job in life for how much of a book lover I am, you guys. The number of books that I have kept in my home, I think, is extremely reasonable. And I often do a library situation or a pass along style book or put it in the free library. But there are certain books, and I think it's good to have a personal library if you're like, this book stays. Or maybe
Yeah.
I can loan it out, but I have sitting right now on my table a couple books that are being loaned out, but I am like, that has a book plate in it with my name on it. I want that back.
Yeah. I also think I am so respecting of friends who like want to keep their books perfect, and then I will know if I'm loaning a book from someone else, I will know, okay, this is probably not appropriate for travel because I keep books in such great condition, but I will say packing them to travel is where the greatest risk comes up for me. And I was appreciative that the other day a friend was reflective, and I I don't even remember how it came up, but she did let me know. Oh, if you do not want your book like written in dog-eared, heavily worn, like you should not let me borrow. Like don't loan me books, and I will
Okay.
tell you that right now.
That's heavy book usage. I will loan out a book to someone knowing, it might not come back exactly how I sent it. It's a book, it's meant to be read. But I actually have no problem with annotations in your own copies of books. I think that's great. And when you come back to it years down the line and you see your reflections, that can be cool. I would never mark up a book that was borrowed either from a library or from a friend. Unless they're like, this
Yeah.
book is for you, you can keep it, I don't want it back. I would feel like that was absolutely diabolical if someone gave me back my book and they had put annotations in it and like highlights. I would not. It's a book at the end of the day, and I would practice my Zen, but I would be like, that's not the call that I would have made.
It's interesting in life because we grew up being such great sharers because there was no choice in our household whether or not we were great sharers. First of all,
Twins
we
and
shared a
beyond.
room, shared a bed, shared a closet, shared a bathroom. I'm like, shared a toothbrush. Just kidding. um, but there was a lot of sharing being done in our household. We wore so many hand-me-downs and, the all that sort of stuff. And I am so
And it's
happy to
rubbed off
be.
clearly.
Yeah, I am so happy to be a sharer, and I love to share. I also know about myself that we were sharers that with each other and our family because of the principles we were raised with, that we hold ourselves to very high standards about the way we treat things. And I don't say that in a holier than thou way. I think that it is literally that was just very. We were raised by a very type A mom who cares very much how things are cared for, and we all care for care about how things are cared for. And I remember the first time loaning out a article of clothing to a friend in like middle school and having it come back and being like, okay, so this is stained, was clearly something, it was not cared for. And I, at that point in life, thought like, oh, maybe that's just kind of a one-off experience. I felt really bad about it, but it was like, oh well. And then as things have continued in my life, I've realized I have a generous heart for sharing. However, when it is a thing that I just don't, I don't think that we should go outside of our honest heart for sharing, because if you cannot share something with the knowledge that it might not be respected in the same way that you have it, then you probably just shouldn't share. So I've been trying to be more accountable with myself, and I don't ever like to say no, I don't want to share this, because I don't feel like that's true to my heart. But I also don't want to say no, I don't want to share it with you because I know that you don't care about your stuff as you care about mine, and if you harm it, I would expect you to replace it, and blah, 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 all of these conditions, and sounding like a brat. So I would rather just tend towards saying, kindly, I will not be sharing this.
And I think that part of it is a difference of respect maybe, but also it can be just as true of like, my expectations are a little high on this, and I know that, I
Exactly.
you returned like a stained shirt to me, it's still a shirt. It's not necessarily about anyone else's choices, where life happens, and I understand that, but I know my expectations are there, and I think that
I was being facetious by saying you do not have the same standards of respect for me. Of course, I think it is fully based on my expectations for things.
I'm recently, and like the pendulum swing of which we have referred to, I am making things maybe hyper geared towards ownership, but that's your fault, Quinn. Speaking of radical ownership, I'm like, you started it, so in the best way. I feel so excited about the phase that we're in, which brings us to another point that we would like to discuss on the podcast, is Quinn and my pact, if you will, agreement, decision that
blood pact.
Yeah. Bud pact.
Yes.
Where
Correct.
Quinn and I have taken a break from not only the smoking but usage of marijuana THC products. And I said that in such a
pause
silly
for
way.
Applause. Thank you.
You know that Quinn and I frequently do these breaks, but this, I don't know why we feel right now like a little extra passionate in it. I think because it's for a longer period of time. We agreed to 2 months together, but also we are in the year of the horse, and things are changing, and we are reflecting and considering very heavily, as people that have already been intentional. I feel maybe even more wanting to be more intentional around use of substances, including and not limited to weed.
Yeah, by the time this episode comes out, it will be around 420 time, so still happy 420. You can bet your ass we'll still be celebrating, and hopefully, screening Pineapple Express or the plethora of other
the traditions surrounding.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, Riley and I have felt really solid over the years about our breaks and our check-ins, and I am always conscientious about talking about not partaking with weed, because it's almost like it's a little sweet little kid that I just have to nurture and coddle and be like, I'm not talking bad. I'm just, things are different now. And I feel a bit of a protective sense where I think it's because there is such this there we grew up at least having heard so much of the propaganda and the shaming and guilt around marijuana usage that I feel is better left in the past. And I can also recognize that there were parts of my identity that were very tied to being a stoner and feeling like all for one and one for all, and we're all for weed. And definitely
it's like
could
the propaganda.
yeah.
They said this would happen.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, it will be your everything. But I was in a place where it was definitely the stoner side of me, to the point where if you're out and about and someone offers, like, maybe one day I'll recall a situation that I said, no, I'm good, unless I was on a written in stone break where then I could totally say, no, I'm good, I'm on a break. But I am calling in the nuance and the ability to appreciate and use something and have that plant as a tool and in a relationship that feels balanced and doesn't feel like there's a pressure for do it or die, like this is your thing, your identity, and more so like, yeah, I can actually listen to my own heart and intuition when it feels like the right time for that, and I can also say no thanks when it doesn't feel like the right time for that.
Mm-hmm. And I absolutely feel like the people that we are spending time around are all on board with that. I feel like maybe there is more of a peer pressure situation in certain groups, but especially with younger. Like one of my friends too is going through a similar thing where she just is really going to reduce and be more conscientious about use with weed, and she is extremely weed positive and definitely does not expect that people are going to smoke or not, even if she was going to in those situations. And I think that's how I feel with most things, whether you're with a group of friends and some people get cocktails and some people are like, no, I don't drink, and whatever your vibe is, being able to gauge that and decide for yourself. And I do not appreciate if somebody feels like, even I think I'm pretty sensitive to it, where even a little, if someone's like, oh no thanks, like I don't drink, and they're like, oh come on, it's my birthday or whatever, I'm like, no, they said they didn't want to. And I think that people shouldn't have to be super firm and serious, like, no, actually, like I committed to, I'm taking this break. It's okay if you're like, oh no thanks, and then maybe later in the night I'm gonna be like, you know what, this time if they light up I will have a little hit. Like that's it's that simple. But I think that most people can be decent to that.
I think so too, and also I definitely feel equipped with being able to own my own ability to say no, and in the situations where I have said yes even when it wasn't right, it was definitely not because the outside force was like, seriously, do this. Of course, I have had those moments, but the truth is when I have whatever acted without alignment has been
I've done that by
because
myself alone at home.
exactly, like it's me, and I can take the ownership for that. But this has been a surprisingly easy break. I will say that a few days into the break is when, like, truly a few, I think 2 days into the break is when we got the news about my father-in-law's stroke, and that was a very much felt like not a test, but it was a testament to my ability to cope without it, and I'm really proud of myself because I was able to see that through. And I'm not going to act like, oh, I never used weed to cope. Like, of course I have used it in situations like that intentionally and unintentionally, but I wouldn't say that it was like, oh, something sad happened, that's what I go to use, but it would just be like there, and so sometimes inevitably would end up being a coping mechanism. But I'm really grateful and proud for how well that time actually did flow, and that I was able to be really deep in my feelings and hit really low lows, as I shared about, and feel like I really got to process through that well. And again, this isn't even, I'm not taking away from that. That couldn't have happened with marijuana, but I'm just grateful that it didn't feel like, oh, this is so tough, so like hard to not be having this. There were moments where I was like, that would be nice right now. That could ease this burden a little bit. But in some of the breaks we've done in the past, like I remember a couple of Januaries ago when Riley and I did the first month of the year sober, that the first week was tough for me, and the second week I was just like, whew, I gotta get through this. And then after that it felt fine, and then I actually kept going. But this break has just felt so much easier, and I want to now hand the mic over to you. Sorry, I've been just going on, but yeah, it's interesting. So I think that this timing for us making a bit more of what feels like a permanent, or I guess permanent isn't even, a lasting change of I don't know, like practice and heart about it. It just feels like the right timing.
That brings us to the end of part 1 of this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and come back next week for the rest. Bye.